Welcome back to another live episode of Dynasty Theory. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. Dan, you said when we were off the air that you were going through some withdrawals last week because we didn't record. What's going on, man?
Yeah, the withdrawal was real, man. No shortage of football in that time, but missing my boys there from Pittsburgh and Utah. Good to see us tonight.
All right. Looking at some of the comments, we got Ty, we got Dizzo, Will, Sean. What's up, everybody? We are also joined, he's back, by Mitch Sorensen at Dino MC. What's up, Mitch?
My favorite part about the show is Dan gave you all of the players, so I don't have to have any responsibility for any of these guys. Like, it's the same show sheet as last week. I'm like, perfect. I can do this.
Yeah, Mitch was out and about last week, but it is the same exact topic. We are taking part in, and it actually wrapped up at this point, Dan, but a startup. There's some players that we want to talk about, some values that we're looking at as the startups have gone on. I have taken part in my fair share, to say the least. Mitch sent me a message the other day, said, John, get help. You know what? Now's not the time. Now is not the time. So we want to go through some startup draft values. I threw it out to the Discord members, the DD Fantasy Football community. And you're watching live, you're watching back on the show. Let us know whether it's a trend that you're seeing in startups, just an observation, questions, roster build, whatever the case may be. Let us know in the live chat. Let us know in the comments, and then drop a like on the video. It greatly helps us out and the channel. So like I said, I threw the question out to the Discord, and I said, give me some players that you are seeing in startups right now, whether it's startups you've taken part in, startups that have been shared with you, startup data, courtesy of Dynasty Data Lab, which I'll be pulling up here a little bit later, and let us know what values you're seeing. And Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith. Those are the three quarterbacks that came up. Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery. Those are the running backs. And I also said, let's get out of the top 6 rounds or so. Like, oh yeah, like I love Brock Bowers. He shouldn't be slipping to what, 10th overall, whatever the case may be. Let's get a little further back. At wide receiver, we did go a little bit further back. Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Darnell Mooney, Jawan Jennings, Josh Downs, and then Christian Kirk. He popped up a few times. And then tight end was TJ Hawkinson, Brenton Strange, and Evan Engram. So, Dan, this is kind of the Dan show. You wanted to talk about startups because we know that you like to wait as the offseason progresses to take part in a startup. So now that you have one in the books, you have one behind you. You wanted to talk about it. First question to you, Dan. The importance of understanding startup value. Truly, how important is it? Because there's a lot of people, they'll go out there and say, I get my guy. I don't really, I don't care about the values. I don't care about the league dynamic. When all of that is rolled up together, how important is that to you?
Yeah, there was a time, a long time ago. It might have been my first league with Mitch, where I had that bravado of wanting to get my guy, man. But for anybody newer to the Dynasty landscape, you got to get out of that mentality. I think it is super important. I don't think you could be successful or partake in any startup without an idea of values and a game plan. Just like being in a league and, maybe, you do have a game plan, but then you don't know trade values. So for me, it's 24/7, 365, just grinding the rankings. So I'm pretty comfortable going in. And then, hey, we tune in every week, right? And we kind of see where our guys stand. And if I'm off in my rankings, I normally hear it from you guys or, other people I might follow in the DD Discord. So I think it's critical ultimately. And there's tools you could get, whether that's even your tiers and rankings, JB. There's tools I think you have to have going in.
Mitch, putting you on the spot here. Any trends that you've noticed, like whenever we take part in these startups year after year, something that maybe you've seen this year that you didn't really see in 24 or 23?
Yeah, so I'll just go back. Like when I first started, you saw trading up happening a fair amount. Actually, the majority of leagues, you would see a couple people trading up. And then I would say from probably 2021 to 2024, there was very, very little trading up. Everybody wanted to trade back. Nobody wanted to. And I think everyone heavily drafted quarterbacks to the point to where you could go in a 12-team super flex draft. You would have, in the first 24 picks, you could easily have 13 to 15 quarterbacks off the board. And then you would know those third and fourth rounds, they would have a whole bunch of positional.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm seeing this year is that is not the case. You're seeing the top 6 quarterbacks, and then you're seeing Bowers, Gibbs, Jefferson. You're seeing all of those good positional players go off the board before you end up seeing the Justin Herberts or people trying to get Drake May. So I do think we're seeing a little bit of a shift this year compared to previous years.
Yeah, and I pulled it up on the screen here. Let me know if that is tough to read. I know a lot of folks, they check us out here on their phones, but I pull up Dynasty Data Lab. You can filter it based on different time periods, different league settings, but I have this up here from May through June startups, non-best ball, at least a tight end premium. Let me see exactly here. 12 or 14 team leagues, +4, +6 passing touchdowns, either one, 0.5 to 1.0 tight end premium. And like I said, non-best ball. So when we're looking at this, Mitch, you mentioned the quarterback position. You get those 5 early, and then you do see more of those positional players. And that is something that we have not really seen all that often. And there's a question here from Ryan, and it ties in kind of nicely to that. How do you value quarterbacks and tight ends in a 12-team superflex +6 quarterback touchdown league and the extra point for tight end premium? Dan, Mitch and I are going to spend some time on this week's episode of Trending Fantasy discussing the tight end landscape and how it changes league to league and format to format. But when you're looking at the extra point for tight ends, yes, we all want Brock Bowers. Yes, we all want Trey McBride. But after that, like, are you good approaching the position and looking at a Sam Laporta in the 4th, a Warren, a Loveland, a Kittle in the 5th through 6th? Or like, how do you approach this?
Yeah, that is my pivot. And I'm being very aggressive and going after Bowers and McBride. That's part of my strategy going in there. Again, if we're in a lot of startups, I imagine especially as many startups as you are, JB, as Mitch said, you need some help. You're probably seeing a few different things where you've got to pivot your strategy from time to time. And there's some teams in your league that are going to hop maybe a little bit earlier than you're able to on a Bowers or a McBride. But if I can't get them, then it's like, okay, I do want Laporta. I believe he's an upper echelon guy, maybe a little more reservation than we had a year or two ago because of the way we saw Detroit last year use them. Very high on Warren and Loveland. And I think the good thing about doing startups is it kind of reminds you of some guys. You know, he said in the Discord, one of the guys that was identified as a buy low would be Hawkinson. And it just kind of, started reminding me that, hey, I can't lose sight of the TJ Hawkinsons in this league. But if you don't get them, I mean, it starts to thin out. It becomes, all right, hey, if you snooze too long, then I got to get multiple guys. I probably have to get 3 guys, including like a Kraft, or do I go back to Kincaid or Njoku, because you don't get any of them, that the position just stinks.
Yeah, and Mitch, you have gone, I almost said prehistorically, too much dinosaur talk here at home on the brain, but historically, you have approached it and you've kind of gone different directions where if you have a later first round pick, you were okay maybe going running back and kind of seeing how the heavy early running back approach goes. You also, a few years ago when Kittle, Kelsey, they were a little bit younger, you were looking to go heavy tight end, bully tight end approach, whatever you want to call it. Has that changed for you? Because I know when I look at it personally, the opportunity to take Brock or McBride, it really depends where you are in the startup itself. Assuming you're not trading in and out, or if it's an auction, which I know a lot of folks, they strictly do auction drafts at this point, and perfectly fine. But when you look at it and you can't get those top guys, I'm finding myself taking a lot of David Njoku, a lot of Pat Freiermuth, like those types of guys, and it helps me fill out the rest of my roster. So that's the way I'm approaching it with the tight end position. Maybe you see it a little bit differently at this point in time.
You spoke to it. I can't, if I've just signed up for a league, I can't walk in there and be like, hey, I want to go bully tight end here. Or, hey, I want to go get 2 of the top 6 quarterbacks, or I want 2 of the top 3 running backs. Because the problem is If you get the 101 or the 112, you need to be able to adjust your draft based off that happening. If I have the 101 to the 104, I'm drafting quarterback and I'm figuring out everything else afterwards. If I'm at the end of the draft and somehow Brock Bowers gets there and I could double tap a Brock Bowers and get a Trey McBride, I will do that every day of the week. The problem is Brock Bowers now is going like the 106, the 107, and McBride is never making it back to you on that end turn. So then you have to go, Sam Laporta is the next guy. Was last year just kind of a blip when he was hurt a little bit earlier in the season? He came on late, or did he come on late as soon as Dave Montgomery was out of the lineup and they went a little bit, there was just less people to catch the ball and he did better at the end of last year. And so I don't think, John, you're quite as high as Sam Laporta as I am, because I still believe he's one of the 3 best tight ends. But that's kind of where it is. And if you miss out on, if you take Brock Bowers and for whatever reason, McBride goes before you can't get Laporta, then you don't have an option. So I would love to get 2 of those guys. I just don't think you can in a lot of situations.
And then the quarterback aspect of go ahead, Dan.
Hold on, JB, if I could add 2 things there. I think Mitch is in my subconscious this offseason is I think 2 things are really important. I agree with him there. And it's really hard to go bully tight end. I prefer not to with Bowers and McBride just because I really want to solidify at another position. But to me, especially in the deeper leagues this year, if you go to 14, to me, a little bit of bully tight end is getting one of those 2, Bowers or McBride, getting couple of the pieces you need, and then getting yourself a Warren or a Loveland later on if you believe in them. And now because someone else was looking to fall back on them. I guarantee you when they couldn't get Bowers McBride, they said, hey, I'll be happy getting Loveland or Warren. And then you take that guy. That's a little bit of the bully piece. And I also hear Mitch kind of reminded me of, hey, those flex pieces don't have to be a running back or receiver. That super flex could sometimes be something else. So I'm happy in a tight end premium to use those guys strategically that way.
And then before we move on, just the quarterback aspect of it, it's kind of transitioned a little bit where everybody wanted those 2 elite quarterbacks. Well, now with the way the startup drafts go, and we talked about it already, you don't necessarily need to go with that approach because you can get that quarterback 7 through 10 in the late second, possibly early third, or you can fade the position a little bit. I still like to get my 1 anchor quarterback. That hasn't changed. And depending on the format, that is going to dictate the type of quarterback that I'm looking at, whether it's a +4 or a +6 passing touchdown league. But then I'm looking to approach the quarterback 2 position, depending on where those positional runs happen, at the Jared Goff, the Dak Prescott. I get stuck with so much Tua in startups because nobody else wants them. So I've been getting, that's the type of player I've been getting at my quarterback too. And we talk about quarterback room builds all the time and how we approach it, whether it's the 2 higher end quarterbacks and then what we're looking for our quarterback 3, and there's certainly different scenarios, but from a quarterback build perspective, it's the 1 anchor quarterback, it's the 1 mid-tier option, and then as your quarterback 3, like that Geno Smith or Matthew Stafford, depending on how far they fall.
Something interesting just to think about, because this is how drafts are happening now. Is it correct? Who knows? That's how everyone just chooses to draft right now. If you have the 105 in the draft, you have a very realistic opportunity to take Jalen Hurts. And right after that, you could take Patrick Mahomes, probably without having a trade. At worst, you end up with a CJ Stroud, which is an at worst, where CJ Stroud was going in the top 5 of drafts last year. And so we always talk about how, Dynasty is this long game, but it's really not. People are very finicky when it comes to these quarterback values, who they want in certain leagues. So in my opinion, I think it's the best thing someone could end up doing just to solidify a team. Let's say you're new to startups, you don't have a lot of experience in them. Just hammer those 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds this year, because you're going to get, for sure, without a doubt, 2 starters that are going to start in the league for the next 5 to 10 years. That's going to happen.
But is there anything worse, though, where you take those 2 quarterbacks early and then quarterbacks continue to slip and you're like, but the value.
But what ones slip is the thing, right? The ones that are slipping are the ones I don't care about in the first place.
But if I'm looking at, let's say I have the 101 and I go Josh Allen, and then I'm just using the ADP here. I go Drake May at the beginning or end of the second.
Okay.
But then in this specific league, Brock Purdy and like those mid-tier options, like upper mid-tier, start to fall to the 5th, 6th round. And maybe I wasn't able to navigate throughout and I didn't, get a lot of trades completed successfully. From personal experience, there is nothing that leaves a worse taste in my mouth, and cue the jokes there. But then those quarterbacks slipping after I've solidified the position. I hate it.
Well, I think our most recent startup is a great example, and I think you guys both had some more kahunas than I had there. And I went with Stroud and Prescott. And I thought, hey, Stroud 23. I'm a Cowboys homer, but I do believe in that offense in Dak for a few years, and I was content. I watched Mitch start out with Herbert, so he locks down his 1. And then go to get Tua, you mentioned JB at 5th. And my thought going through that draft is Mitch is either genius or because I think that was really good.
So I had Purdy
there
in that draft. I traded Purdy to get Lad McConkey. I wanted the stack. Yeah. So I originally had 3.
So Mitch got value and locked down his 2. I forgot about the Purdy trade. JB, on the other hand, locks down his Burrow and then slides all the way. I'm like watching this draft.
I was
like
giving Sean so much crap during that startup. It was great.
Mitch,
so for reference, the startup.
No, JB. Before you do, I just got to say, I'm DMing other owners. Please take a quarterback there. JB has nobody at this point.
I was doing it too.
I was just dying. I'm like, he is going to get stuck with who knows who,
Throw the flag. Collusion. I want to
collusion. Collusion would be the 3 of us working together because we're on the same podcast. Instead, people don't need to realize how competitive the 3 of us are. And I was like, someone's going to stick Bauer.
No,
yeah, but
no.
No, in this situation, of course, all fun. Yes, and I landed Daniel Jones as my quarterback too. So it's going to be a successful season with that gentleman is my quarterback too, and it is a 14-team league. But no, and Mitch, you and I talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, where there was never a point in those middle rounds where there was a quarterback that I valued over the positional player, and I certainly could have reached a little bit on some of those options as opposed to reaching on Daniel Jones where I did, but that's the nature of the beast in a 14-team league.
In a 14-team league, I'm less brave, so I'm really going to be interested to see how this all plays out. Should be fun.
Yeah, that's just the interesting thing with startups is they do change. Like we'll say like, hey, this is how everyone's going to attack it, and then they don't. You have to be able to adjust. So like talked about these values that Dan has is really important because you might not love these players, but these types of players are in those ranges, right? You can always find, not to preview it, DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a guy to where everyone can fall in love with, but only one guy needs to in order for his draft capital to like go up a lot higher than what it normally is.
Sorry, I'm pulling up. Oh, go ahead.
While you're pulling that up, that kind of just played into my strategy in this draft, Mitch, where, hey, 14-team league, we're all going to sacrifice some position, right? So we go in with our strategy, and, I got my 2 quarterbacks. I got Bowers. I did play bully tight end in the 5th round, and I got Loveland in the 14-team league. And then I'm like, all right, now I got to really figure out how to start 3 wide receivers and figure out this running back position. I went with the young receivers. I got Flowers. I got Golden. I got Chuba Hubbard. And then, it just running back became value for me. And it just made me think, hey, there's some guys I think have really good seasons that I'm getting at a good value. Now I'm banking on them. They better come through. But it's just something I'm seeing in a lot of startups. These guys have some good value.
And it really is cyclical. You have these trends. They come and they go. On my screen right now, January 2024 to May 2024 startup ADP. You had 8 quarterbacks going in the first 11 picks. And now you move ahead here. And every single time I want to click settings, I click filters and vice versa. And it gets me all frazzled over here. But now you go ahead to today and you're getting those top 5 quarterbacks early, right? And then quarterback 8 at pick 209. So is that an over adjustment because of what we've seen? And it happens with the running backs too, right, guys? Going into 2024, nobody wanted running backs. And now, because they stayed healthy for a season, we saw the production. You look at all the WAR charts. If there was a flex position available, it most likely was a better option to have a running back there. So they start to get elevated a little bit again. I don't want to keep toggling back and forth here, but I guarantee you that running back 12 probably wasn't going pick 50 going into last year. So it was a lot of good conversations there and some comments that have sparked that. We do have actual show notes that we want to get to. And Dan, I was laughing at your comment in our notes. After reviewing the notes, the odds of JB keeping this show to an hour, even without Mitch, is slim to none. And I think that's probably accurate. So, Dan, you had players that you wanted to talk about. We're back on track now, guys, that you saw as a value specific to the 14-team Superflex startup we did. But honestly, it does translate well to the overall 12-team Superflex format as well.
Yeah, these are guys that weren't on my guys list going into the most recent startup or the off season, so I am taking the bias out, and I really like where they landed. And as we go through these startups, I am just researching the heck out of every situation. So I like DeAndre Swift. I just really like his situation. I'm starting to think he's a team leader in that locker room. I know there's, you can make a case for why we don't like DeAndre Swift as well, but I just think he's at a good age. The O-line improved. That offense looks absolutely incredible. And I think if you're in on the Chicago Bears, why not be in on DeAndre Swift? And since these show notes too, Dobbins signed, Chubb signed. So some of the top free agent backs are no longer in the market there. Not saying they still can't sign anyone, but even if they did, I don't think I'd really care.
And you can see over the course of the last 5 weeks, his ADP, it has increased a little bit, maybe half a round. But DeAndre Swift, for reference, Dan, you took him at pick 104 in our startup. It was the 806, but again, a 14-team league. He is going running back 28, 1003 in startups, 12-team Superflex tight end premium formats, as you can see on the screen, pick 111. So you went a little above the pick number where he's going. But again, that makes sense because you see the dude as a value. So that should be the trend. Maybe you're willing to reach a little bit. So it's kind of like a put your money where your mouth is situation. Fantasy calc value, he's running back 29. So it aligns very nicely with current ADP. Realistically, Dan, where can you see him finishing this year? On a per game basis. That's always the discrepancy between Dan and myself. On a per game basis.
Hey, if the stars align like I hope, and again, when I'm drafting a DeAndre Swift, it's normally because, again, my strategy went heavier in the other positions. Obviously, like anyone else, I'd rather the Bijans and those other kind of guys. But I see him as potentially being top 20-ish. Around top 20, maybe he cracks a little bit, a couple spots higher, maybe. And I'd be thrilled with that at this draft value here. And I think if he has a productive year, they'd be inclined to give him one more year with the Bears. So if I get 2 years out of DeAndre Swift scoring decent points, I'm happy there. And if he's I have him 26th in my rankings, fantasy calculator had him at 29. So we're pretty close. Again, I can see him finishing top 20.
And is the dynamic for you here that the fact that he's slipping, and I use air quotes because in your mind he is slipping, is it because some of the players that are going ahead of him cross positionally? And I'm looking at like a Jaden Reed at wide receiver 44, Kyle Pitts at tight end 11, Brian Robinson within the position at running back 27. Is it are those kind of the types of players that you're like, I would prefer Swift?
It's a combination of that. And when I look at the board that you have on the screen here, other than Brian Robinson, I like him more than Scattaboo that went ahead, around later than Pacheco. I like the value there. And I definitely don't want to get into old man Connor. The Jag situation's muddled. Tracy, I think, could be a value, but there's a little more risk. So I like him right where he is compared to the receivers, as you're mentioning, that you could get there, JB, and he would just be the running back I would want in this range.
Mitch, you shot us a message and you said it's great because the show notes were done. You don't have to do anything, but you said you were just going to kind of play devil's advocate on every one of Dan's picks.
A little bit.
So DeAndre Swift, are you a little more cautious compared to Dan, who was slightly optimistic here?
At running back 28, I'm fine with it because I think he's going to finish around running back 28. But I don't think he gives you any legitimate upside. There isn't anything about DeAndre Swift as a player besides the position that he has right now with the Chicago Bears to where he is the 1A guy. He's not a 1A running back. He isn't that good. Like, I watched him in Detroit, watched him in Philly. Like, I want him to be good. I still have his jersey behind my head right now on the wall. There is nothing about him that is special to elite. So while his value is fine at running back 28, I don't think you're ever going to get value out of him, even if he has a good few weeks, because I think everyone kind of feels the same way.
And here's
he has had flashes of those good weeks, though, Mitch, on bad teams. Now you give him a Chicago Bears offensive line that's legit and a passing game that you have to respect, and no competition other than maybe Roschon Johnson.
Yeah, it's fine. But we fall into this trap with these running backs a lot, to where they are players that we want to like, that have every reason to be very good, but just end up never being very good because they're not very good in the NFL.
And I will say, good enough, Mitch.
I know, just good enough. It's all that matters.
I will say, going into the NFL draft, we talk about the Bears being a prime landing spot for a running back. Yeah. And they chose not to go that route. And then you look at his contract. He's under contract through 2026, but he can be cut after 2025 for pretty much next to nothing. Now, again, there's always speculation every single year. Oh, well, this player's going to get cut. This player's going to get cut. There's going to be an opportunity, whether it's the existing players in that backfield or maybe DeAndre Swift lands somewhere else. And more times often than not, they don't get cut. It's just, something that we look at. It's always in the back of our minds. So let's go through some of these players here rapid fire. I took players across each position, and we'll go Mitch, Dan, all the way through. Do you prefer DeAndre Swift or Chris Godwin?
Chris Godwin.
Swift.
Jaden Reed.
Swift.
Josh Downs.
Got one out of Mitch.
Josh Downs.
Josh Downs, baby, all day.
Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, Swift.
Swift here as well. Depends on the league, though.
Now,
I mean, because there's got to be some context with Swift, though. If I don't need running back, if I went heavier in my league running back, then I'm taking Sutton there. So it will be team specific.
Brian Robinson, who again was going running back 27. DeAndre Swift running back 28.
Brian Robinson.
Okay. Isaiah Pacheco.
I got sniped on him.
Pacheco going running back 26.
Pacheco.
I have them like neck and neck here. I'll go Pacheco.
Mark Andrews. Let's call it 0.75.
Mark Andrews.
Extra for tight ends.
Andrews.
Tucker Kraft. Do either of those choices change for you guys if it's just 0.5 extra for tight ends?
Yeah, I'll go Swift over Kraft.
Same.
Kyle Pitts.
Swift.
I'll buy in again, boys. Let's go.
And then the lone quarterback going like right here.
The quarterback.
Anthony Richardson.
The quarterback.
I am out on this tier of quarterbacks. I'm getting my quarterbacks earlier in every single draft, so it's Swift.
All right, moving along. Chuba Hubbard. Dan, you took him. Did you take him? Did you? Pick 608, so pick 78. He's running back 21 in startups right now. 705 in 12-team Superflex formats. Pick 77, so you pretty much took him right on the money. Fantasy calc running back 21. Do you see Chuba Hubbard as a running back that can sustain this running back one production? Or if he starts to move up a little bit in value, do you potentially see him as a sell high candidate?
I definitely see him as sustaining this this production. Like, he passed the eye test for me last year, and then Carolina backed it up with a contract. So to me, that's a 2 for 2. Now, I was going really hard in the 6th round of a 14-teamer to get Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, and the chips just didn't fall in place where I could get them, and I didn't want to overpay. So, like, Hubbard was my 4th guy that round. I says, okay, I'm happy with Hubbard. I didn't have to pay anything to trade up to get him, and I did.
Mitch, are you in on Chuba?
Oh, love Chuba. Love Chuba going back to last year. Absolutely love him. But I'm going to say I've already looked at the players that you've chosen Chuba over, and I'm like, I'm not going to say Chuba once. I don't think. Maybe once.
So what I did,
Once, maybe twice.
What I wanted to do was going through this, players that went just before the players that Dan wanted to talk about. Hold on, I'm trying to find the right screen there. There we go. So we have Chuba, running back 21, just according to startup ADP. So players that are typically going just before Chuba, would Dan prefer Chuba over any of these other guys? So running back 20 is Caleb Johnson. Dan, let's start with you on all these. Dan, Mitch. Chuba over Caleb?
If I'm winning now, yes. Otherwise, no, I'd rather Caleb.
TJ Hawkinson, again, plus 0.75 PPR for tight ends.
I took Chuba because I'd rather get Loveland or Warren than Hawk, so I'm going to take Chuba.
Hawkinson.
Okay. Jordan Addison, and again, full PPR.
The receivers are a sweep for me.
Are they?
I take it. Yeah.
And did they all go before Chuba in our draft? Clearly, I don't know.
We did look. Probably, I would say odds are high.
Mitch, are you also a sweep? So the wide receivers in question, Jordan Addison.
Or
you wouldn't take DJ Moore?
No, I do not like DJ Moore.
So
DJ's the only one in question. But
would you take Jordan Addison, Chris Olave, Emeka Egbuka, and Terry McLaurin?
No. Okay, honestly, for everyone listening, I will go Chuba over DJ Moore and Chris Olave and Jordan Addison, but I want Egbuka over Chuba.
Okay.
When I look back at it, I think I did take DJ Moore over Chuba Hubbard over a couple of these guys, but it was out of necessity. Like, I didn't have a choice at that point. I couldn't fade running back anymore, so my hands were tied.
All right, and then assuming +6 for passing touchdowns, Dan, Bryce Young or Chuba Hubbard?
I'll take the quarterback and Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce by a lot.
Does it change if it's +4?
Nope, Bryce by a lot.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. I want to skip over these next two in our show notes. We'll get back to them
thank you.
if we have the time. It could also be Dan's final thoughts here. But going over to the wide receiver position at pick 83, according to startup ADP here on dynastydatalab.com, Matthew Golden, wide receiver 32. That's 7-11 in startups, pick 83. Dan, Golden went pick 83. So again, right on the money. You see him as somebody that's going to return value, give you potentially immediate production, and separate himself from the rest of that receiving room?
I really like Matthew Golden. I felt he slid more in rookie drafts than I thought he should. I feel like he's sliding a bit in startups. Fantasy calculator had him at wide receiver 29. I have him at wide receiver 24. So that's 5 good spots there. And I think he's going to end up being the guy in Green Bay compared to what they have.
But again, Mitch, what does being the guy in Green Bay truly mean?
13 to 14% target share.
It's going to change, Mitch. It's going to change.
I'm sure it is.
It's
They
always
haven't drafted
change.
anyone this high ever. This is historical for the Green Bay Packers. That first round capital there.
My only issue with him is, for anyone who's listening on the podcast feed that can't see it on YouTube, let me give you the top 10 wide receivers that are going before him. You have Terry McLaurin, Egbuka, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Addison, Metcalf, Waddle, Jameson, George Pickens, Tyreek, and Mike Evans are going right after Matthew Golden. I can't take Matthew Golden over any of those guys. I think his best case scenario is he is Jordan Addison. And Jordan Addison has been a very good pro. but I don't think that
Yes.
ceiling's there with him.
And Jordan Addison still isn't valued highly.
No.
And I think you would be ecstatic, realistically, if Matthew Golden ended up putting up Jordan Addison's numbers from the beginning of his career, right?
Hey, that means he's not a bust. And, those picks I have, which I have quite a few shares, are legit. But I like the guy's film going in. Hall of Fame receiver Steve Smith also had Matthew Golden pretty high. And then you get the draft capital. So there are some guys there where I just want to take that gamble on a ceiling that I think could be there.
All right. Well, let's put you to the test here. Would you take Golden over Pickens, Jamison Williams, or Jalen Waddle?
I would take him over JMO. I was concerned of the off-field stuff, and Sun God's number one there. And I take him over Waddle, who I'm afraid's made of glass, and Miami could have some issues. I will take my boy Pickens in his 1 year stint with Dallas. I'll take Pickens.
Yeah, and Kevin or Kayvon, apologies for the way I pronounced it there. I'm sure I got it wrong, but he says a Jordan Addison who isn't blocked by the best wide receiver in the NFL could be quite productive. Absolutely.
Just to counter, all I'm going to say is having a Justin Jefferson always being double covered could also help out an Addison just a little bit. But no, Kev, I'm going to go Kev on. I agree. That was just a little bit in jest. And thank you, Frank, dude. I appreciate that.
Some of the concern I have there with Addison is McCarthy. The more we read in the offseason, like JB's Daniel Jones, who's become a Daniel Jones truther. The one report that came from a good source was the Vikings offered him quite a legitimate amount of money to stay with them. I don't know, it was like $13 million or something like that. So, why would you do that if you have JJ McCarthy? I'm not quite sure. And I can see them keeping Addison for a while. So I just want a little more ceiling for a true number one.
When you said McCarthy, my brain just automatically went to Coach McCarthy. And I was like, what? Why is he even coming?
I don't want to scare you
in this conversation. I don't know. But so you would take Golden over Waddle and JMO. George Pickens, I'm sure it has nothing to do with him being a Dallas Cowboy at this point in time. I see some comments here just about Addison. Remember Addison getting suspended the first 3 games more than likely. I don't know if that's going to impact Dynasty all that much, but certainly in seasonal, that's something you want to pay attention to. We got some Jaden Higgins love. I think Jaden Higgins might be one of my most rostered rookie wide receivers. I got to go pull it up again. Diaz also says I'm taking Jaden Higgins over Golden.
Ooh, I like him a lot, Higgins, but not quite Golden, boys.
Here, Frank says I will fall out of my chair, and hopefully, Frank, your chair's in better shape than that thing behind Dan that he calls a chair. I will fall out of my chair if Dan picks Golden over Igbuka.
He'll do it.
Let me go look at their rankings here.
Oh, no.
It's close, boys. It's close.
You just know that one. No. How close is it?
I mean, honestly, I would take Golden over Igbuka just because I think he could be the guy right away in Green Bay, where you still have Evans and Godwin in Tampa Bay.
We got
It's close. I can accept the challenge flag there and lose it. Igbuka's a talented dude, man.
We got Adam going 5 decimal places here. 0.00000. Maybe
really zero.
Maybe there's
really,
a one after
JMO.
0% chance I'm taking Golden over JMO.
JMO could break out this year too. There's a path.
Dan, Will,
we got
Jeremy's dude over there.
We have something to talk about tomorrow night, Will.
Dan, you're gonna get some hate on Golden over Igbuka. You're gonna get hate.
Take it.
You're gonna get hate from me on Golden over Igbuka.
In-season genius.
Yeah, we'll see. Move back a little bit and then take Golden if your heart so desires here. But man, that's a bold one. That was a bold one. Justin Fields or Matthew Golden. 12-team
Golden.
Superflex.
Golden, because again, I don't want to enter that tier of quarterbacks.
Fields.
Chuba Hubbard or Golden.
Chuba.
Situation specific, depending on team need.
Hawkinson.
My team better not be needing any Matthew Golden points this year.
Again, hoping to have fade Hawk, and there's other tight ends I want. You know, 1 for 1, I think you'd take Hawk. I just rather a different tight end, and then I'm happy to snag Golden later.
Okay. All right. Moving along here, Josh Downs.
Controversial one of the night. I love it.
Listen. In rookie drafts, I have Matthew Golden because I have my cross positional and my rookie tiers. I have Matthew Golden like on an island in a tier at 202 in rookie drafts. People hate the dude. They had their mind. People had their mind made up pre-draft, post-draft. I even made a comment in the Discord, and I think I've brought it up on multiple shows. I said I don't even like Golden, and just the way I had moved up into certain ranges, like I was trying to package together 2 late seconds to get up to a certain spot just to get within a tier that I was comfortable with. Like I landed a lot of Golden as a result. And it's not because I like the dude. It's just because he was in that spot. He tended to drop in drafts. So people had their mind made up. And Dan, I knew by you bringing up Matthew Golden, it was going to catch some flack here from a lot of people.
And that may be partially why I'm a little bit more bullish. He was a guy I liked in my original rookie rankings. And then there's a hate, and I'm like, where's it coming from? You know, and I guess I could see the Green Bay argument. Mitch has made a good case on it in the past. I'm not holding on to that. I think he could overcome. So we'll see. We'll see.
Just because there are a lot of questions, I think Dan's brain needs to be studied here at some point in time. And
it definitely works different.
There's some questions here. So would you take Golden over, let's ignore the older guys here. Golden over Luther Burden?
Yes.
Ayuk?
Yes.
Higgins? Jaden Higgins?
Yes. And I like Higgins. I'm on Higgins, but I like Golden more.
Hell, you might take Golden over T. Higgins for that matter. So just all the Higgins.
I wouldn't do that.
And then what about Ricky Pearsall? And
yes. Yes, definitely.
I'm going to
get
ahead
of all those guys in my rankings. He is ahead of all those guys in my rankings.
Mitch, you know why I just grunted there, don't you?
No idea.
Multiple times in the live chat, multiple times in the comments, somebody attacks me for the way I say Pearsall. And I'm like, I'm going to catch myself next time.
Believe it or not, I've never read a comment that said that. So someone probably said it one time. And you're like, every time someone brings it up.
Multiple times. Well, I'm going to throw it out one more time.
Right?
I see Devontae Adams are Golden in there. I mean, I am anti 30-plus-year-old receivers. So no thanks.
I mean, Adams is going almost 2 full rounds later, though.
Yes. So it should never be a decision.
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be anything that you got to think about. Okay, so Josh Downs now, pick 113 in our startup, the 14-team league. He's wide receiver 43, according to the Dynasty Data Lab ADP. That's 912. So he's pick 108. He went a little bit later at pick 113. Fantasy Calc has him at wide receiver 44. You're looking to invest in Josh Downs, despite the quarterback question marks, despite the way that this offense is going to shake out here in 2025 and potentially beyond.
I have so much Josh Downs, and I feel like he's not like hated like Matthew Golden. He still slides. People kind of have interest in him, and they'll try to get him off your rosters, but they won't offer you anything for him. So for that reason, I just keep all my shares and I keep going after them. And I have him a lot higher than Fantasy Calculator. I have him 30 in my rankings. Like, I also think he's a really talented dude. I think Matt Harmon's really high on him. I respect his opinion when it comes to receivers. I love Josh Downs.
I completely.
He's the Colts' number one receiver.
Yeah, I agree.
His value is low enough that it's not like a costly mistake if you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing trade poll questions. It's like a 26-second or Josh Downs. So it's not that costly in existing leagues. And I think a lot of people, they are concerned about that quarterback situation, rightfully so. whenever you're looking at Anthony Richardson and or Daniel Jones throwing you the ball, there's only so many prime opportunities to go around. So when you look at Josh Downs, Dan, would you take him over Kyle Pitts? Again,
Smash, yes.
Okay.
I don't care what it is. 2.0.
Okay.
Yes, if you're asking me to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm asking you too.
I was just making sure. I'm sorry.
Dan, Mitch thinks he's just here to be the good looks on the show.
It's all that tropical vacation. He's still on,
I have a good tan still. Pretty proud of it still, to be honest.
All right. Josh Downs or Cortland Sutton? Dan, are you on mute?
Accidentally hit it. Josh Downs.
46 minutes in without being muted.
I'm a Paisan, man. All this Matthew Golden, Josh Downs, talk, it's getting me excited here.
Frank says Cena muted.
I will see him on Saturday. Come back to that.
All right. So that was Sutton. Brian Robinson.
I would take Brian Robinson. Value the position.
Josh Downs.
And some of these players, obviously, they're coming up multiple times, but there's a few of these guys that you brought up that are in this range. Anthony Richardson or Josh Downs?
No, Josh Downs. I'm staying void in that range.
Richardson. I don't love it, but I'm at the point now everybody hates Richardson, so I'm just willing to say Richardson more now because everybody hates him.
John will cry if Richardson gets that job and keeps it.
I won't because I wasted.
Do you have some? Oh, no, that's right.
I wasted so much money on this piece of shit.
I didn't know you had that.
Why do you think I keep it low and behind me?
It's awesome. Dude, that one should be up over your shoulder. Just make it that much better.
That's great.
I like the helmet itself, and I was like, all right, this is Anthony Richardson, like right after the NFL draft. I was like, man, this is gonna skyrocket. It's gonna skyrocket in value. I'm gonna be giving it away here in some giveaway.
Just wait, he's going to break like 56% completion percentage this year. It's going to happen.
Maybe, but I did like the helmet though. I genuinely think it's a cool looking helmet. Okay, so
last thing on Josh Downs in our startup, our 14-team league, like he went round 9 of that 14-teamer. What's that, like 126, 127 picks in there?
Like pick 113.
113. Like I was panicking there. Like I'm trying to trade everybody every single pick, and you were one of them, JB. And you're like, Dan, who are you trying to get here? And I was like, JB, I can't tell you, but I was lucky enough to land him.
Mitch, Downs or Golden?
Downs.
Dan?
I don't want to. Do I have to answer that one? It's a tie.
No.
I'm Golden. I'm Golden because I think Golden does go earlier than Josh Downs in these startups.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I'm Downs. If I'm giving anyone else advice on what to do dynasty-wise, you take Matthew Golden, the first-round wide receiver.
All right, Dan, I want to give you the chance here to go rapid fire on these last couple guys. I don't even want to leave the conversation talking about some of them.
Yeah, this is ocean bottom now here. Like these aren't guys I'm like high on like Golden and Downs. These are guys that I just think you're getting so late in the draft that there is a scenario where they could be that team's wide receiver 2 and get you some decent fantasy production this year. It's by default. I think it's because it's tough situations that both of their teams are in at the position.
And these players are
take it over. The guys that you haven't rattled off yet. Like, all right, Dan, you have Tyrone Tracy, who's not ocean depth.
Oh, we're going back. All right.
Pick 117, Fantasy Cup has him running back 34. You think
I thought this was rapid fire.
You think he can maintain relevance with Scattaboo in the mix?
And he's out of the no sequence here. Like I thought those guys were for like final thoughts, Mitch. All of a sudden he goes back to the running back, but I guess I see what he's doing here. So we're with you, JB. We could pivot here on Dynasty Theory, no matter which direction we go. My thing on Tyrone Tracy is like everybody's Cam Scattaboo and like off of this guy, like he's not RB1. And I think he's still their RB1. I wasn't big on Cam going into the draft. He didn't get drafted so high where I'm like shook. Like I like Tyrone Tracy and where he's going in startups, you might just have yourself an RB1.
All right.
All he has to do is not fumble. If he doesn't fumble, I think he's the dude.
Oh man, would you take him over Travis Etienne or James Conner?
Yes.
Mitch, Dan has
It's
had
close.
Dan has had these notes for 2 weeks. And
he's looked at him at least twice.
Maybe. Mitch, would you take Tyron Tracy over Khalil Shakir?
No.
Dan, Geno Smith or Tyron Tracy? +6 passing touchdowns.
Tracy, I take. I'm avoiding the Geno tier, and I'm with Mitch. I wouldn't take Shakir either. But again, it depends on where you're at in the draft. I mean, there are scenarios roster dependent where maybe you go a different direction.
And then David Njoku is in that range as well. I'll take Njoku.
Yeah.
Same.
I'll take a lot of players over Tracy in that range.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's still there. But again, it is a questionable backfield. How's it going to play out? Ultimately, I think Tracy and Scattaboo, they cannibalize each other a little bit, and it's going to be hard for them to be too fantasy relevant. But, crazier things have happened. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
All right.
When you look at David Njoku, I think you're looking at our tiers, right? I think if you look at any of our tiers, that tight end tier where David is much higher than Tracy. So to me, it's not even a conversation. I think when you look at ETN and Connor, they're probably all in the same tier. It's just how do you think those running back situations are going to play out?
You have one more running back here. He's running back 59 in startups, 1706, pick 198, fantasy Kyle Kazmet, running back 64. Can he stay healthy? Can he be reliable behind Josh Jacobs? You like Marshawn Lloyd.
I think you look back to guys we liked last year in last year's rookie draft that maybe didn't pan out, but it was all because of injury. So I'm not going to penalize them and say, hey, if I liked him last year and he's Green Bay's number RB2, they let go of A.J. Dillon. Why could I not get excited about Marshawn Lloyd that late in a draft where, hey, I got a potential RB2 that really does have some ability, and he is healthy by all accounts right now.
All right, going over to the wide receiver position. You have Quentin Johnston, wide receiver 70, 1603 in startups. That's pick 183, wide receiver 70 on fantasy calc as well. What are you seeing here with Quentin Johnston at that price point?
I'm hoping I'm buying a little bit of coach speak of, hey, this guy is a starter in the NFL. Their receiver coach in the Chargers has got a really good reputation of working with wide receivers. Again, could be a wide receiver too with Justin Herbert. They let Palmer go. I know they got some guys like Trey Harris that may change some things. We'll see how that pans out. But again, there's a path there where he's a true wide receiver too. So for as late as he's going, I don't mind getting Quentin Johnson.
We were talking about this in the Discord with like wide receiver 3s on teams and if there's any chance that they truly could be fantasy relevant. But like you said, Quentin Johnston could be looking at the wide receiver 2 on that team. We'll see how long Mike Williams is healthy, but it's a unique situation that presents itself with Quentin Johnston. But again, I think a lot of people, they had their preconceived notions, and then he hasn't come out of the gate swinging, right? First 2 years has not been great for Quentin Johnston. So I'm not saying the price is unfair. It really gets interesting though. Like, do you prefer upside running back plays? So I want to look at those two. Quentin Johnston or Ray Davis, Mitch?
Ray Davis.
I'll go Quentin Johnson.
Really? Okay.
It's close. I'm not mad at Mitch at all for that. I think
I'm not mad at
good
Mitch.
rationale behind it.
I hope not.
You can tell if I say really. Okay. I strongly disagree.
You do.
That's fair.
That's like
fair.
the,
No challenge
okay.
bags.
I don't want to get into it, but you know how I feel. And then Jalen Wright, he's going in that range as well. I would take Davis or Wright over Quentin Johnston.
I'm a little more intrigued by Wright. He's been kind of moving up a little bit for me, so I might go Wright.
All right. And then I'm giving you.
No. Don't do it. You have 15 seconds.
All right, Dan, your final thoughts can include these last two guys if your heart so desires. But again, the live chat, absolutely fantastic. Hit the like button if you're watching, again, whether it's live, you're watching back on the YouTube channel here. hit like, hit the subscribe button. I know you're already subscribed to the channel, but just in case you aren't, and then come over ddfantasyfootball.com, the cross positional tiers, the War Machine, the Trinity tool, and then get in the DD Fantasy Football Discord community. A lot of the conversations that we have on the show, that we have on Trending Fantasy with me and Mitch, they're conversations that stem from things that are taking place there. And then use code Theory over at ddfantasyfootball.com. Get half off your first month. And I mean, people tend to stick around whenever they check it out. For the 295th time on Dynasty Theory, Dan, final thoughts. What do you got for our incredible listeners?
Hey, thanks for entertaining me tonight, boys. That was fun. Episode 295. We really got to come up with something special as we approach 300. 3 rapid fire thoughts. Roman Wilson and Theo Johnson were the last guys on the show notes. Roman Wilson, I'm a little concerned because JB's a Steelers fan and I'm not feeling the vibes over there. But again, it's that wide receiver 2 narrative where there is a chance. Theo Johnson's a starting tight end that was really starting to look good before injury last year, and he is going to be the starting tight end for the Giants. So he's going so late at tight end 29 that I think he's a nice value late. Going to meet CeeDee Lamb and John Cena at New York's Fanatics Fest this weekend. Going to be a blast. So look out for some cool pictures there. Really pumped for my boy and I to meet CeeDee Lamb. John Cena, this will be the 3rd time, but we're family, so you guys understand that. And then tomorrow night, honored to be with Will pinch hitting at the Dynasty Daddy trade show. So make sure everybody tunes into that.
At what point can we get an over under? At what point does John Cena have to get a restraining order?
It's got to be getting close, right?
That's my
well, we're probably there.
Yeah. Mitch, final thoughts. What do you got?
And I didn't bring up a single player. All I'm going to say, I don't love him. Savion Williams is still listed as a wide receiver. I am not convinced that the Packers are going to use him solely as a wide receiver. So for a very, very late round dart throw, I like Savion just because the hope he could get 4 or 5 rushing attempts listed as a wide receiver. That's not a bad flex play really late in the season.
Rapid fire players that I think are values in startups. So it's only about 77 players. I really agree with Dan on Swift. I would add Tony Pollard. I would add Will Shipley super late. Jameson Williams, George Pickens, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney, and Elijah Moore at wide receiver 97. Add all of those guys to my list. I already said I can't get away from Tua in startups. Dan, you're off the Geno Smith train. I'm not. And then at tight ends, George Kittle, David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, and Hunter Henry bringing up the rear there at tight end 31, pick 208 in 12 teams, super flex, tight end premium formats. Oh, all right.
You like how he can spit them out, Mitch, and we get no rebuttals for any of his guys? Like,
yeah, he's like, hey, we're out.
That's it. No rebuttal, but I'll hear about it in the comments, I'm sure. Let us know in the comments any other topics you all want to hear discussed. We're more than happy to open it up and talk about things that people are interested in. So let us know. Again, hit the like button, hit subscribe. We appreciate each and every one of you. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I am John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Peace.